signed in, and well, I'm not going to do that right now. Well, there it is. Okay. Okay, so I think it's working, but to be sure, it's going to take a minute. In the meantime, this is a Q&A. So you can put your questions in the Q&A box and we'll get to them. Michelle, let's start with the first question.
Okay, so I'm just gonna do one because we don't have any questions that have come in yet, but I just did a gut Zoomer interp and there was low diversity. So let's just talk about what can increase gut diversity, which is so critically important for overall health.
You bet, you bet. Okay, good. And I've got it here now, and I think I do. Well, yeah, I do. I just have to click on it, I guess. Gut diversity. There are a number of aspects of what we want to do to increase the diversity of the good guys in the gut. And why do we want to do that? Because 36% of all of the small molecules in your bloodstream come from the exhaust, which is called the metabolites, but it's the exhaust of the bacteria in your gut. So 1/3 of everything that is traveling in your bloodstream, remember your bloodstream's just a highway, right? Everything's going the same direction, but there's no lanes of traffic. Everything's bouncing around in there, but they're going the same way. 1/3 of everything in your bloodstream are messengers from the gut. And those messengers from the gut are going to the brain, to the heart, to the kidneys, to the liver, to the eyes, to the bones, to the muscles. They are actually what turn our genes on and off in terms of, if you've heard me say before about genetics, the vast majority of diseases we get are not preordained by the genes you have. The science now says somewhere between 70 to 80% of all of the chronic diseases we get are not predetermined that you absolutely going to get this, but it's well, what word can I use? Pre-suggested, I guess. It's the weak link in your chain. And it just depends on whether you ramp up that gene or calm down that gene as to whether you're going to have the pathology that eventually kills off enough tissue that now you've got a disease. And what ramps up the gene or turns down the gene are the metabolites in the bloodstream that come from the bacteria in the gut. That's why 1/3 of everything in your bloodstream are these messengers from the bacteria in the gut. So you want a whole lot of the good guys in your gut producing these messengers, and not a lot of the bad guys, which produce the, they're called pathogenic bacteria because they cause pathology. They cause cells to not work right. And why? Because the exhaust tells the cells to not work right. And so the exhaust in your bloodstream tells the cells not to work right. So if you get this concept, what you walk away from this concept with is, how do I increase the diversity of my microbiome in the gut of the good guys? How do I do that? So Michelle, would you start with that while I look in to see who's here and who's making comments?
Sure. So the American Gut Project did a huge research study that people actually paid to be a part of. And they found that the people with the healthiest microbiome were eating 30 different plant-based foods every week. So that's vegetables, fruit, nuts and seeds, legumes, we would say gluten-free grains, and that's whole grains, like whole brown rice or black rice or purple rice, and herbs and spices. And it's really realistic and doable. It's just, I think that most people have all experienced a day where somehow you made it through the day and you didn't have any vegetables on your plate because you grabbed a piece of toast for breakfast and, a bar for lunch, and then for dinner, maybe you had some pasta in a bowl with, maybe you had tomato sauce on it. So that would count as one. But if you just include like 4 to 5 each day, different, that's all the colors of the rainbow, and root vegetables, green leafy vegetables, just whole real plants, plant-based foods, that is going to have just a profound and dramatic impact. And they found that people that ate less than 10 different foods per week had a lot of complex health issues. So that's where I would recommend starting. Just, it's what you're putting in your grocery cart when you go to the store. And I don't want anyone to go to the grocery store and throw 30 different veggies in your cart, because they're going to rot in your fridge, unless you can prep them all, divide them between pint-sized glass jars. You can pulse them all in a food processor, and then they're ready to go, if you freeze them, to add to soups or to throw in a smoothie for breakfast or some meal throughout the day. But a lot of times people just go gung-ho and they just throw all this food in their cart, and then it goes bad in their fridge. But what I like to do is, when I go to the grocery store, I like to look around that produce department and think, what am I not had in a while? I get a lot of organic produce delivered to my house. And sometimes I don't go in and choose. I just let them choose for me, because then I get things that I wouldn't naturally pick, which is really good. Because I think we're all drawn. I would say the vast majority of people eat the same 10 foods over and over. I don't know how many people I work with. They're like, how can I be sensitive to eggs? That's all I have eggs every morning for breakfast. Well, that's how you right. But we're all tend to get stuck in these food ruts. And so if we're conscious about it and we go in there and we think, okay, I haven't had jicama in a while, I haven't had kiwi in a while, I haven't had bok choy, right? And then just look at your cart, make sure that you have red produce and orange produce and yellow and green and blue and purple. And some of that is just like the hint, like you can see like the purple kale, right? You can look for hues in food, or you can go straight for the blueberries, right? But that's a really great way to get started. It's completely realistic and doable. It's going to have a massively positive impact on your microbiome.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people sit and they go, yeah, whatever. No, this really is cutting edge research that's coming out on a regular basis, meaning, I get notices on a number of different topics of the new research that's being published. And my guess is 2 or 3 articles a week, every week, from gastroenterology or neurology or psychiatry or dermatology or rheumatology for arthritis. Not exaggerating, every single week, more studies are coming out by cutting edge researchers in major universities talking about polyphenols, which are the colors in fruits and vegetables, and talking about oligosaccharides, which are the fiber in root vegetables and vegetables in general, but especially root vegetables. That's why I want everyone to buy 1 or 2 of every root vegetable in the store when you go shopping. Well, I don't know what to do with a rutabaga. Well, neither do I. But you'll find out it's easy now to do, and the fallback is you can do the O'Brien method, which is I dice up an onion, peel some garlic, saute it with some coconut oil with the root vegetable that I diced up, add a little sauce to it, and I eat it. Well, what about for turnips? I dice up an onion, peel in some garlic, a little bit of coconut oil, dice up the turnip, and saute it until it's a little bit soft, pour some sauce on it, and I eat it. You don't have to be Julia Child to have more than adequate results with simple stuff, right? But this is 2 of the primary lifestyle changes that you slowly start to build when you're wanting to build a healthier, more diverse microbiome. See how I'm coming back to it? Because that's the goal here, is a healthy, diverse microbiome. If there's only one thing you're going to do to get healthy, is focus on building the good guys in the gut and reducing the bad guys. That will have more impact than anything else you can do. Anything else is focus. Well, what do you mean focus? Well, you got to learn what to do. You have to learn, okay, so 50 different colors a week of fruits and vegetables, that's impossible. No, it's not. You'll find it's really easy as you develop the skill. Root vegetable every day, at least one root vegetable, yes, every day without exception, because you're feeding the good guys in the gut. And when you feed the good guys in the gut, the good guys grow more. And then they have more exhaust, which are the metabolites that get into your bloodstream, that go up to your brain and say, produce more melatonin. And when you produce more melatonin, you just feel better. And then you produce more serotonin. And when you produce more serotonin, you sleep better. So you sleep better as a result of eating more root vegetables, because you're feeding the good guys in your gut that have more exhaust, that gets into the bloodstream, travels to the brain, tells the brain to make more of the sleep hormone, melatonin, and you sleep better. And this doesn't happen in one day. You know, this is lifestyle that you start developing. Okay, so that's enough on root vegetables. And then we go to, so root vegetables, there's three things I want to tell you about building a healthy, diverse microbiome. Root vegetables, fermented vegetables, 1 forkful every day. Unless you have a sensitivity, then you have to slowly, gradually build it up. But a forkful every day of fermented vegetables. Well, what fermented? All of the fermented vegetables. Every day you have a different one. Get sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, curry flavored, fermented beets, because the fermentation process in different vegetables produces different families of bacteria. And when you eat those families of bacteria in the sauerkraut or in the kimchi, you're inoculating your gut with 10,000 times, literally 10,000-fold more probiotics, good bacteria, than when you don't eat fermented vegetables. So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is applesauce. Make your own applesauce. It's really simple. And you do that because arguably the most powerful enzyme in your gut is called intestinal alkaline phosphatase. And it does a lot of really good things for you. This is the kind of research that's coming out now a lot. Intestinal alkaline phosphatase lowers cholesterol, lowers triglycerides, lowers blood sugar, increases insulin sensitivity, so you need less insulin, reduces LPS getting into your bloodstream, so that's called metabolic endotoxemia, by 73%. I mean, the list goes on of intestinal alkaline phosphatase and why it's such a good guy. And you increase intestinal alkaline phosphatase by eating pectin in apples. And so when you make applesauce, you buy organic apples, wash them, don't peel them, dice them up, get rid of the seeds, throw them in a pot. And if it's this much apples in the pot, add water to about 1/3 the height, throw a little cinnamon in there, maybe some raisins, turn it on high, let it boil. When there's a shine on the skin of the apples, it's done. The shine is the pectin has been released from the meat and from the underside of the skin of the apple, so it'll be easily accessible in the small intestine. As soon as that applesauce comes out of the stomach, and it starts increasing intestinal alkaline phosphatase, which helps to create a healthy, diverse microbiome. So those 3 lifestyle habits, root vegetable, fermented vegetables, applesauce every day. Every day. Michelle, anything else you want to add to that one?
Yes. And so if you're going for 30 to 50, then just make sure you're getting the variety of the colors and the green leafies. And, you know, that's the foundational part, but we need the others as well. So awesome.
Robin asks, can you just eat the apple? Well, sure. And that's where an apple a day keeps the doctor away came from. It really is because it works to increase intestinal alkaline phosphatase. But most of us have such altered guts, our microbiome is not where we would like it to be, that the amount of pectin in one apple is going to be a little bit of help. You know, if you do that every day over the course of months and months and months, that builds up, builds up, builds up. So it'll support more intestinal alkaline phosphatase. But when you eat applesauce, you get more concentrated pectin for the amount of food you're taking in. Because with an apple, that's a certain amount of food, and the pectin in there's a little bit. But when you have a tablespoon or two of the applesauce, it's more concentrated with the food and more pectin. So you get better encouragement of good bacteria in your gut. But certainly, an apple a day is a great thing to do. Ruthie's asking, are you in the Columbia area? No, Columbus area. No, that's not for us. So must be for somebody else. Terry says, we put diced apple and almonds in our daily salad. Way to go. Way to go. Great to do that. I'd suggest you also, if you like it, throw a couple of walnuts in there. 2 walnuts a day gives you all of the selenium that you need. And selenium is really crucial for the function of your thyroid. And so especially people who have Hashimoto's with high TPO antibodies, that selenium is one of the supplements to help get the antibodies down. So just have a couple of walnuts every day. Really, it's just 2 walnuts. That's enough every day. And you know, there's a reason why the walnut is shaped, the meat of the walnut, it looks like your brain, because it's really good brain food. And I won't go into all the reasons why, but just know that it is. Michelle, do you want to go to the next question?
Yes, Beth says, how long does it usually take to make your gut healthy enough to live a normal life if you have identified your food sensitivities? The
3 to 6 months.
Question.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. It's 3 to 6 months. I mean, you start seeing improvements with one meal. Well, actually, you may not see the improvements, but if you did stool analysis today and then eat the meal that you eat now, and then tomorrow, after 24 hours, do another stool analysis, the bacterial concentrations are different. That what you eat in each meal impacts on what the concentrations are of bacteria in your gut in one meal. But in general, to change the dynamics, you know, of here's the analogy that comes up for me. Marzi and I have lived in Italy for about 1.5 years, and now we're in Costa Rica. But in Italy, it was the first time I really lived with roundabouts. You know, I'd been in Europe a number of times before driving, and, you know, you see a roundabout, and, you know, it's kind of an awkward thing. You're trying to figure out what the agreements are, who goes first and all that, you know. But after living in Italy for a while, roundabouts are just the best thing, because you can judge in a moment's notice who's going to allow the next person, who's got the right of way, right? And so roundabouts are a much more efficient way of driving through an intersection than a red light. Because a red light, you got to stop. It's going to take 3 minutes or whatever the time is, and then you can go and all that. But a roundabout, you just slow down a little bit, and then you know, and it just keeps everybody moving at a faster pace. But it took me a while to get used to that. When I'd go to Europe before, when I lived in the US, and I'd come up to a roundabout, I really wasn't sure, you know, and okay, and then I got it or something, because I just wasn't sure how to work with it. But it took me a while to adapt to roundabouts. It takes your gut a while to adapt to different concentrations of bacteria. Your gut is over 20 feet long. All of it is covered with this mucus lining, and all of this bacteria is in 20 feet. Just imagine if your room is like 14 feet wide or 12 feet wide or maybe 15 feet wide, 20 feet. And all of it's covered with bacteria. So, all right, I'm going to eat some applesauce today, and maybe in the first part of the gut, the applesauce will have the effect of increasing intestinal alkaline phosphatase, but the level of IAP down in the middle 10 feet away of the gut is still not good for intestinal alkaline phosphatase. Well, I ate the applesauce. Well, it can't affect 20 feet of intestines. You know, that's why base hits win the ball game, that you have to have patience. And when you learn what the protocols are to feed your body in the direction of a healthier body, they're not like, all right, well, you know, I do it a few days a week, or, well, I can have a cheat day. No, you can't. You know, who came up with that? Someone who just didn't want to give up their chocolate or whatever it was, right? You know, and I mean, well, you know, I need a cheat day. No, you don't. Because if you, maybe you do. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be that in your face about it. But do you want to be healthy or not? You know, do you want to be vibrant and dynamic in your 70s and 80s and into your 90s? My friend Mel, who I've known for many, many, many years, I think he's 76. I think he is, and I might have it off by a year or two. But, you know, his goal in 2020, you know, this whole COVID thing, his goal was, I'm going to ride 5,000 miles on my bicycle this year. 5,000 miles is a lot of riding, you know, and if you divide 5,000 miles by 52 weeks, so if I do 5,000 divided by 52, that gives me 96 miles a week. 96 miles a week, divide that by 6 days, because you really should have a day off, is 16 miles a day. 16 miles a day for a 76-year-old guy is about an hour and a half to 2 hours of riding every single day. But he was determined to do this. Well, he came in at 5,014 miles, I think it was, on December 30th or 31st. Way to go, Mel. Way to go, right? But, you know, he's been building up to that for 4 or 5 years or more. He's been building up his endurance and riding a bicycle. You need to build up to a healthy 20 feet of gut. You know, it takes a while to get 20 feet of gut. And so I say 3 to 6 months, and I'm just making that up. You know, I don't know. I've never seen a study. Yeah, well, how do you determine a healthy gut? Well, stool analysis, I guess. And so, well, Doc, when should we do the stool analysis? Oh, not before 3 to 6 months, because it takes a while to get rid of the bad guys. And usually that's one of the markers we're looking at, and to begin to build up more good guys. So I say 3 to 6 months. But the comparisons we've been doing in the stool test haven't been looking at the vast diversity of the microbiome. The tests where we've done lots of comparisons with have been looking about bad guys and parasites and the big families of good guys, but not all the diversity. So I really don't know. It's at least 3 to 6 months. You start changing it in one day, in one meal. Every meal will impact on the diversity of your microbiome. Within another couple of years, I think we'll know more about how long it takes to change the complete paradigm, the complete civilization of bacteria in your gut. You know, how many different indigenous peoples are there in your gut? How many different indigenous bacteria are in your gut? We don't know right now. I mean, they keep finding more and more, but at least 3 to 6 months of this. But you should notice that you're feeling better, you're functioning better, your bowel movements are better, your gut symptoms are down within a few weeks of doing this. Michelle, is there anything you want to add to that one?
Great. Yeah, you did a good overview. So our next question is Adriana. She wants any information on high Epstein-Barr virus would be helpful. She has high IgG and IgM, and there was also high Candida. Michelle will be having a consult soon. Awesome. I look forward to it. And if COVID positive recovered Should we wait a specific period of time before getting the neural zoomer test? Oh, that's a great question, Dr. Tom. Would you recommend?
Let's do that last part first.
Okay.
And I'd say, no, absolutely don't wait, because if you're recovering from COVID, it should not impact on molecular mimicry in your brain, meaning antibodies to your brain tissue. It certainly can impact on inflammation in your brain, but the Neural Zoomer Plus is really looking at antibodies, which then produce inflammation. But the production of antibodies is not a come and go thing. You know, they last for anywhere from 2 to 8, 10 weeks. But once that system gets turned on and you're making excess antibodies, I've not seen any evidence that it calms down when your symptoms of a flu go away. I've not seen any evidence of that. I've certainly seen the evidence that they ramp up. And so doing the Neural Zoomer Plus, you would want to find out, where do I have elevated antibodies in my brain? Where's that happening right now? Because that's going to give you the baseline to compare after you do your protocols, whatever the protocols are that you and Michelle will come up with. So I would do it right away, absolutely. And the first part of that question, Michelle, what was that again?
Epstein-Barr virus, any tips for EBV?
Right, and Candida, right.
Yeah.
When you've got elevated antibodies to any virus, what that tells us is that the immune system has allowed the virus, or a bacteria, same thing, allowed the virus to grow, to be more of a problem. That our immune systems are supposed to keep these viruses in check. You know, we talk a lot about bacteria in the gut, but there's more viruses than there are bacteria. We just haven't had the technology yet to identify and focus on the viruses, but there are thousands of viruses in the human body. So when 1 or 2 or 3 get checked and they're high, it means that the balance is off, that the community of the gut, or the community of the bloodstream, or the community of the body is off. It's out of balance. And it comes right back to a component of what you have to do. A primary component is rebuild the microbiome of the gut, which actually rebuilds the microbiome of the body. And rebuild the microbiome because the microbiome is the conductor of your immune system. We haven't really talked about that very much, but it's those exhaust of the bacteria, and not exhaust of the viruses, but the viruses and the exhaust of the bacteria that are circulating, that are the messengers from the gut, telling the brain what to do, telling the eyes what to do, telling the heart what to do. And when we get this, that the gut is the first brain, you know, it's often been called the second brain. Well, that's because we thought the brain controls everything. Not really. The brain is the director, but there is a CEO that's telling the director what to do. And the CEO is the community of the gut, the quorum, if you will, of the gut. It sends the messages. For every 1 message from the brain telling the gut what to do, there are 9 messages from the gut telling the brain what to do. So who's the boss here, right? So you want to continually have this much attention, well, at first, this much attention, but when you've been doing this for years, like Michelle and I have, you want this much attention every day on maintaining a healthy gut every day. What does that mean? Well, you put a couple of walnuts in your salad along with your almonds and your blueberries and, you know, whatever the other foods that you are including. But you throw a couple of walnuts in there, because walnuts, they kind of, the meat looks like your brain. Maybe it's good for your brain. It is. It is. So, and you just keep doing all those little base hits. So I think if you try to treat the Epstein-Barr, an elevated Epstein-Barr, how do I treat the elevated Epstein-Barr? I don't know that you'll ever be successful. I think that would be, if I could do a video of that dynamic, it's a dog chasing its tail. You know, you can catch it, bring the viral load down a little bit, but then it comes right back. Why? Because that 20 feet that is the director is still sending the same messages out every day. You've got to send different messages out to get a different response. Michelle, anything you want to add to that?
That's exactly it. You know, I think we fixate so much on these viruses, and we have to get to the underlying root cause of what allowed us to get Lyme disease, Epstein-Barr, these various conditions, Candida in the first place. We got to go way back upstream.
That's right. That's right. I see that Shanquila is asking, is a rebounder safe if you have a C1 misalignment? That's really good. I love your question, Shanquila. You, every week, you've got great questions, so thank you. So a rebounder is a mini trampoline. I think it is the very most comprehensive form of safe exercise for everyone to do. I don't care if you're 90, you can do it, because rebounders come, someone come with a stand, and you put the stand into the frame of the rebounder, and you stand on it, and you just walk on the rebounder, right? And there's a whole thing about pulse and being in your pulse range. But the benefits of rebounder is second to none. People who get serious about rebounder, you see their bodies, their bodies morph towards the body of a gymnast, which means they're really symmetrical. It's not just big biceps and big shoulders, you know, and lifting a lot of weight, and so you're top heavy. Or it's not running so that your leg muscles are really great, but you can still have a pot belly. When you're doing a rebounder, you're working every muscle in your body, gravity, anti-gravity, gravity, anti-gravity. And the result is it's a symmetrical focus. All your muscles are being used. So I highly recommend rebounders. I jump rope on a rebounder, which is a lot of fun. Now, if you have a C1 misalignment, well, the question causes alarm bells in my brain, because I think my experience has been there is a subspecialty in chiropractic that focuses exclusively on the first bone of the neck, C1, at the top of the spine. And they work there and nowhere else. And some of their philosophies have been that anyone that doesn't do this kind of work is junior to what we're doing. And my response to that in my most gentle way is, you know, so excuse me, but it's just not true. If your passion is a C1 practitioner, which is, you're gonna create miracles because this is your passion, this is what you do. And there are hundreds of thousands of people that have been helped by addressing C1. But the same with if your passion is in chiropractic is the full spine. And I venture to say there are more numbers of miracles that have occurred, because if your problem is at T4, working on C1 is not going to fix it. It's, you know, it's the same concept as the book, The Plant Paradox. Great book, has helped millions of people, brought us all up to speed on the dangers of a category of foods called lectins. But in that book, the message is nobody should eat lectins ever. And my response to that is nonsense, absolute nonsense. No one should ever eat lectins if your immune system is fighting lectins. Absolutely correct. As long as you have a competent immune system, you check to see, is my body fighting lectins? Because we're all eating lectins. And you might find that your body is fighting navy beans, but no other type of lectin. In that case, well, don't eat navy beans. Well, but my mom makes this beautiful salad a couple times a year with navy beans. I understand, but your immune system says it's a problem for you. You can't go against your immune system. So my opinion is that you determine if you can eat lectins by, do you have a sensitivity to lectins? You do the test. So if we take that to the musculoskeletal care and the world of chiropractic, which everyone should have a chiropractor, everyone, because it's so common a component to whatever your health problem is. But if you have a C1 problem, you need to fix C1. If you have an L2 problem in your lower back, you need to fix L2. You need to get that joint moving better. Well, it's caused by C1. Show me the science on that. Show me the science. And I've never seen any science on that. Well, but when I adjust C1, L2 gets better. Well, that may be true. If I adjust L2, C1 gets better. You know, because the muscles start just relaxing and the body functions better. The person feels better. Their muscles ease up a little bit. But the problem's going to come back if they haven't addressed where a contributing factor is. Now, all of that, and for those of you that stayed with me on that, this is a bit of your introduction to chiropractic. Now, through all of that, my alarm bells went off because, well, if I have a C1 misalignment, can I do a rebounder? Well, if you have any misalignment, you need to address the misalignment. So this tends to suggest that somehow the idea was suggested to you with a C1 misalignment, well, you have to keep coming back to get C1 fixed because you're just misaligned. Not my experience. My experience is with chiropractic that sometimes when a person's never seen a chiropractor before and they've got a lot of joints out of balance, and that happens to most all of us, they may need to see a chiropractor a number of times for a few months. That may be true until they can get some symmetry in there. But you should be getting symmetry, which means you shouldn't have a button that says, hi, I've got a C1 misalignment. You shouldn't be walking with that button in life unless there was some heavy trauma that came in or some other extenuating circumstances, a birth defect, some spinal anomaly. There are some people that have recurring problems, but it's because of birth defects or trauma. So if for any of you, if you're wearing it, well, I've got a sensitive low back button. Hi, my name's Kathy, and I've got a sensitive low back. But why? Why? Or, hi, my name's Steve, and I've got high blood sugar. Why? Hi, I'm getting brain fog. Why? Do you guys get it? So your body is designed to function beautifully. Your frame is designed to carry you through life. Having a C1 misalignment, and I'm sorry to be jumping on this one, Shanquila, but I'm taking the opportunity, and this may not relate to you at all, but I'm taking the opportunity so everyone can understand about the value of chiropractic care. Maybe we'll do Facebook Live on that. That's actually a good idea. I am a chiropractor. I guess I should do that. I've never done that in all the years that we've done Facebook Lives now. That would be a good idea. Wow, that would be a really good idea. I'm going to do that. I'm going to invite my friend, Dr. Leonard Fay, the founder of Motion Palpation Institute, and who has trained hundreds of thousands of chiropractors in his career, literally. Guy's in his mid to late 70s now. We're going to invite him. So team, let's make a note. And tomorrow, please remind me. And we're going to send out an invitation to Dr. Fay. And we're going to do a whole Facebook Live on musculoskeletal care. I think that'll be really fabulous because the guy is my mentor. He's really quite remarkable, and he's such a no-nonsense Canadian. He's fun to talk to. So anyway, all right, Michelle, let's go to the next question.
Okay, I just wanted to mention one thing there. I mean, we have the trampolines and we have kids out there doing flips on them, and that's awesome, right? I mean, they're still getting that benefit of lymphatic drainage. It's almost like a exercise for your lymph system. But people can, if they're in great health, can get a mini trampoline and go for it to like really get a good workout. And other people can do just a gentle bounce and there's still benefit. So I think everyone should start at wherever they're capable so that they're not going to injure their body, right? And still get that benefit. Do you agree?
That's really a good point. That is really a good point. And I started off by saying an elder can get one with a frame on it, stand on it, and just walk while you're watching your soap operas, or, you know, if you're watching television, because just that walking, the way you can tell is you're getting benefit or not. Get a pulse monitor. When you wear a pulse monitor, it goes across your chest, and with a watch, or actually, you know, they've got the smart watches now. There's a number of ways you can do it, but you want one that's got an alarm. And you set the pulse monitor to your aerobic range. The aerobic range is 180 minus your age plus or minus 5. 180 minus your age plus or minus 5. If you've been diagnosed with a disease of any type, you start 175 minus your age plus or minus 5. And whatever that number is, so I'm 69, right? So for me, that would be 180 minus my age is 111 plus or minus 5. So my range should be 100 to 115, you know, because usually the watches go in 5 block increments, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. So 100 to 115, that's my aerobic range. The only modification to that, there's 2. If you've been diagnosed with the disease, you start at 175 plus or minus your age. Or if your resting pulse, so take your pulse in the morning, you first wake up, if your resting pulse is below 72, you have to subtract that from 180. So my resting pulse used to be at 54, 55 when I was doing triathlons and everything. Now my resting pulse is about 65. So that means I'm 7 points below a resting pulse of 72, right? So if my resting pulse is below 72, which is the average, then mine is 7 points below. So I would have to take 7 points off of 180. So for me, it would be 173 minus my age plus or minus 5. So that makes my range now 95 to 105, something like that. And you stay in that aerobic range. Whatever your range is, you stay. Now, I know those numbers are confusing. Watch this again, because this is on Facebook now, so you're able to watch it again and write it down with pencil and paper. Please don't email my staff saying, what's that for? How do we do that again? You know, because I just realized what I just did. We'll get 50 emails now, and someone's going to have to spend a whole day answering this. So please just watch the Facebook Live again and write it down, you know, when you watch it. But when you stay in your aerobic range, you burn fat for fuel. Now, that's what we want, because most of us are packing way too much fat. And when you burn fat for fuel, you get healthier. You may not lose weight for the first few months. You may not. I've given a talk many, many times called The Fallacy of the Bathroom Scale, right? Because it's the wrong measurement. To say, am I healthy today? Oh my gosh, I've gained 3 pounds. I'm not healthy. I mean, it's the wrong measurement. Our body composition is the measurement we want to do, but percent muscle mass, percent fat. And most of us are walking around carrying way too much fat. And so the goal, aerobic exercise burns fat for fuel. So when you burn fat for fuel, you're getting healthier because you're lowering your percent body fat. That's the goal here. And there's a number of studies, and the government even suggests it's 150 minutes a week in your aerobic range. That's 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Now, it may take you 6 months to build up to 30 minutes. If you do 5 minutes a day on a rebounder in your pulse range, way to go. Then next week, maybe you're going to do 7 minutes. Next week, you're going to do 10 a day, right? So you just gradually build up. And how do you know when you're pushing hard? Because you're at a certain pace and you're in your pulse range, and all of a sudden, the pulse monitor goes beep, 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 beep. Wow, my pulse has gone up, but I've not picked up my pace. You're getting tired, and your muscles are having to work harder, and there's more lactic acid circulating, and so your heart's having to push harder, so your pulse is going up. So when you're starting to get tired physically, or when your pulse is going up, so you have to slow down to stay in your pulse range. And now this is aerobic exercise. My gosh, is this thing broke? I can't go this slow and be healthy and exercising. Yes, it is. It is, because your body's getting tired, which is great. Great. So just don't push yourself so hard, that you're tired for the rest of the day. But when you do this application of exercise with a pulse monitor, you're going to get healthier and healthier and healthier, and you're not going to get any injuries. That's really important. And the mini trampoline that Shaquille is talking about is, I think, the very best way to get symmetrical exercise and workout of your muscles.
Plus, it's fun.
Well, go ahead.
Besides, it's fun. It's a fun form of exercise. Okay,
Yes,
next question. Can constipation cause fermentation in the gut and lead to mold growth in the GI system?
Well, first, I'm going to say hello to Helen that's here from Thailand. Hi, Helen. Thank you so much. Tell us what time it is in Thailand, and I'm assuming it's Wednesday in Thailand. But and hello to Karori in Wellington. I think that's in New Zealand. I think it's New Zealand. Thank you for tuning in. Lynn Trox here. Hi, Lynn. Are the blood tests more accurate than the skin poke tests allergists do? Absolutely, without question. And I'll come back to that. But Michelle, let's do your question first.
Okay, so can constipation cause fermentation in the gut and lead to mold growth in the GI system?
Oh, absolutely. Fermentation is gas. And constipation, when waste sits around, I don't know how to say this in okay. Your bowel movements are not supposed to smell. Poop isn't supposed to smell until it sits around for a while and ferments. We're supposed to be moving food through our digestive tract in somewhere between 8 and 18 hours, something like. It's supposed to be moving through fairly consistently, a smooth time sequence. How do you know? Eat corn on the cob, as long as you're not allergic to corn, and not GMO corn, but eat corn on the cob. When do you see the last kernels of corn in your bowel movement? That's how long that's been in your body, right? That's one way that you can tell what your bowel transit time is. But when bowel transit time is compromised or lengthened because of, and how? Constipation. Things aren't moving out, they're sitting around in there. Yeah, it starts to ferment, and that's where gas comes from. But also, we absorb our water in our large intestine. Well, that's also where the gas is when we're holding gas and trying to pass gas in the large intestine. And sometimes people who have constipation have bad breath. So where's all that coming from? Constipation. which means our body, it's like you're backing your car into a snowbank and the exhaust pipe is full of snow. Where's the exhaust going to go? Back into the car, right? So yeah, constipation is a problem. So the first thing with constipation always, when you confirm, you don't have to do anything else until you confirm you're drinking a ½ ounce of water per pound body weight. Get on a scale or estimate your weight, whatever it is. If you weigh 140 pounds, are you drinking 70 ounces of water a day? Now, 64 ounces is a ½ gallon, I think. Isn't that right, Michelle? You know? I think so.
64
I think so.
ounces. Okay. I think so, yeah. I think it's 128. I think it's 128.
Okay,
per gallon.
Yeah. A gallon's 128, so 64 is a ½ gallon. Are you drinking a ½ gallon of water a day? Oh my God, I'd be peeing all day. Well, that's the idea. That's what you need to do, right? So you don't have to do anything else for constipation until you can answer the question, yes, I'm drinking a ½ ounce of water per pound body weight. And I've done that for 4 days in a row, and I still have constipation. If that's the case, then you start doing other measures, right? But yes, it can cause gas. Yes, it causes fermentation. And what was the follow-up to that she asked?
Mold, like candida. I'm sensing like fungal overgrowth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, oh, right, candida overgrowth, right. Yeah, absolutely, it can fuel that. Absolutely. So the first thing you have to do when you're dealing with mold in the body, and that's determined by a urine test. We'll put the link here, maybe, if we can. We're on a new platform today, so if we can, we'll put the link here for the urine test for mold and also the blood test looking for antibodies to mold and fungus. And that's how you know if you've got mold and fungus in your body, is you do those tests. And all of us have a little, that's okay. There's a normal reference range. But if you've got elevated levels, you've got a problem. And the inner environment needs to be addressed. So the answer is yes to that.
Okay.
Trock asked, are the blood tests more accurate than the skin poke tests allergists do? Yes, by far. Remember, we've talked about the immune system is the armed forces in the body. Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Navy, IGA, IgG, IgE, IgM, IgD, different branches of the armed forces in the body. Allergists just look at IgE, the Air Force. That's a really important one to do. And the skin prick test, the studies that I've seen say that it's right on the money 46% of the time in children, 56% of the time in adults. Or I may have those two reversed. I'm sorry, I don't remember. But it's one or the other. So it's about 50%, meaning it's wrong half the time for IgE. But it's not even looking at IgA, IgG, IgM, IgD. It's not looking at the other branches of the armed forces. But now just looking at this today, the history of allergists. They used to be called allergologists. I didn't know that. Allergologists, G-O-L, allergologists. And they really formed after World War II. And it was some medical doctors back in the 1920s and a little bit earlier, but really focused in the 1920s, that were saying, you know, if we take a needle and we poke it into some food, and then we poke somebody's skin with that needle, if they get a red circle, they're allergic to the food. And most of actually the consensus, the majority of medical doctors said, what kind of nonsense is that? What? You're telling me you could poke a tomato and then you poke the person, if they get a little red, I'd get a red welt if you poke me there. Well, you're allergic to tomatoes, right? So, but it's only looking at IgE, and it's wrong half the time for IgE, but it's only looking at IgE. Well, what about IgA for tomatoes? Well, we didn't check. Well, could I have a problem with IgA or with IgM? Well, yes. But why didn't you check? Well, because I'm an allergist and we look at IgE. They're not going to tell you that, but that's the answer, right? And there are many allergists now that will look at more, but their training and all their textbooks is to focus on IgE. And so technically, the only time you can call a food an allergy is if you have an elevated IgE, technically. Because if you have an elevated IgA, which is the blood test by definition looking for celiac disease is IgA and many other diseases, but IgA, you can't call it an allergy to wheat. You have to say, well, it's an autoimmune reaction to wheat. It's not an allergy, because an allergy is an IgE reaction. The allergologists or the allergist, now they're called allergists, they coined that term allergy around IgE. So skin prick test, Lynn, is a good test. It's been around for over 50 years. It's not changed much in that 50 years. It's a good component test, but Michelle, isn't IgE included in the wheat zoomer and in the corn zoomers and the other zoomers?
So it's IgE response to wheat is on the wheat zoomer. And then many of the food zoomers have an IgE response included. And then there's also an IgE panel that could be run. And I've seen that be completely different when we're getting the blood response for IgE to the various foods than the skin response.
Ah, good to know. Really good to know. Plus the zoomers that those of you who've been following us have heard us talk about so often as the highest quality test, the most comprehensive tests out there anywhere in the world. The zoomers, you can count on the accuracy of those test results. If you have adequate total immunoglobulins, meaning your immune system's working okay, then this is the test to see how's the immune system working. Okay, it's functioning well, we know that, so what's it fighting right now? Is it fighting lectins? Is it fighting corn? Is it fighting eggs? Is it fighting wheat? Is it fighting dairy? That, Lynn, to your question, if there's only one test I'm going to do to see what foods are a problem for me, it's not a skin prick test. It's going to be a zoomer, the wheat zoomer, the corn zoomer, the lectin zoomers. But I would do that one blood draw to look at the zoomers, not a skin prick test.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, this is from Jane, and she says, hi from snowy Ohio. I hear Ohio's getting hit hard right now with weather. Do you typically observe that CRP levels initially rise when treating for heavy metals?
Really good question. And my answer is I've not done a CRP in the middle of a heavy metal detox. So I don't know from personal experience. You know, I've done CRP tests beforehand with an initial panel. Person comes in and, well, Mrs. Patient, we suspect this and this and this. Let's check these. Okay. And they come back positive for heavy metals. They come positive for inflammation, a CRP. It's a test of systemic inflammation in the body. It's not specific to any one condition or one cause, but it's a measure of inflammation that's traveling on your highway in the bloodstream through the entire body. And it can mess up a lot of different tissue. But I've only checked it in the initial, and then when we do our follow-up tests, after we got the heavy metals out, if CRP was high, we do a follow-up. But I've not checked for a CRP on a follow-up heavy metal if I didn't check a CRP the first time. So I can't answer you from experience, but theoretically, if the heavy metal detox is too much of a shotgun approach, meaning, well, let's just get that stuff out of there, and they're pulling it out without any focus on detoxification and elimination efficiency to get this stuff out. Then the heavy metals are circulating in the bloodstream, and I can see the CRP go up. Certainly elevated CRPs can, elevated metal concentrations can cause increased inflammation, so increased CRP. It can cause that. To your question, it can, but that's why when we pull heavy metals out, we won't do it until we've already established that you've got adequate detox pathways. We have to make sure that's all working first. Michelle, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would make sure I'd done a neural zoomer plus to make sure I didn't have blood-brain barrier permeability before I did any kind of detoxification from toxic metals.
Right. Agreed.
Mary says, cauliflower in different colors. I always walk by thinking it's dye. So can I try or should I avoid it?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. It's not a dye. I've been reading some articles this last week about purple potatoes. And purple potatoes have some polyphenols in them. Remember, we started off the show today talking about polyphenols and the colors of the rainbow and the colors in fruits and vegetables. That's the colors are the polyphenols. That the polyphenols in purple potatoes are second to none in quieting down the genes that get activated when you're inflamed and cause you to age early. Increased senescence. That particular mechanism is completely thwarted, meaning you calm down the genes that have been turned on for senescence. It's completely thwarted by purple potatoes. So when you eat purple potatoes, so I told Marzi, honey, let's just make sure when the list, where we are now, there's an organic farm not too far away, and they give us lists of what's available next week, right? And if it's available, let's always get celery, parsley, and purple potatoes. And she said, why? And so, I explained that. And the parsley and the celery is because they both help to inhibit the virus that we're currently all worried about from locking onto the ACE2 receptor and getting inside your cell. So that's celery and parsley. The polyphenols in celery and parsley have been shown in a number of studies to be this much benefit, this much in preventing the virus from getting inside your cell. And it only sheds when it's inside your cell. So you don't want it to get in there. So if you can stop it, and it binds onto the ACE2 receptor. So if you have purple potatoes and parsley and celery, you're helping to prevent the virus from binding onto the ACE2 receptor and getting inside your cell. Because just this morning, Marzi said, I'm really tired of this celery and parsley and everything we eat because I don't really like parsley. She said that this morning. And I said, okay. So let's put it in the smoothie. Let's have the celery and parsley in the, so I said, that's fine, I can do that. So we're not going to put it in our scrambled eggs anymore, or whatever other foods it's going in. We'll put it in the smoothie. Your body doesn't care how it gets in, what format it comes in. You just want it in the highway, on the highway. And it's that the parsley and the celery feed probiotics in your gut, in that 20 feet of gut. It feeds probiotics whose metabolites or exhaust are anti-inflammatory and anti-senescence bacteria in your gut. And the exhaust send these messages out, calm down here, calm down, not so much inflammation. We're back to the gut. It keeps coming back to that. So I was just reading that this week. I don't know how I got on that here, but okay.
So is Marzi genetically, is she a super bitter taster? Is like kale and some of these foods more bitter to her, or does she not know?
Yeah, well, she likes kale, but she doesn't like bitter foods too much.
Okay, because there's some certain genetics that just don't like it. I like to pick parsley right out of my garden and eat it. Yeah,
I do too. You know, actually, you know, if I'm doing a long trip, I often forget until I'm on the road and say, oh, and then I have to wait till I get to a city somewhere. But I buy a couple bunches of parsley, and you know, I'll buy a bottle of water and I'll just pour it over the parsley to rinse it off. You know, get back in the car and get on the highway. But I just chew on parsley sticks, what I've thrown away for years. You know, I used to throw that away all the time. But what happened was somebody told me, no, actually, I was on a trip with someone, and she just pulled out the parsley sticks out of a Ziploc and just, I said, what's that? She said, really? You know, I don't have any toothpicks, so I can, so, you know, I just chew. I said, oh, that's really good. It was really good. So I got in the habit. I'd love to have a little bag of fresh parsley and just chew it while you're driving. It's great. It's really great. Okay. Cute little tail on the side.
Snacking on chips, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, we have a really awesome comment from Cynthia. She says, big win. Put my mother on an anti-inflammatory diet for just 3 weeks. Her platelet count continuously increasing, and doctors lowering her prednisone every week. Base hits.
Wow. Wow. Way to go. Way to go. Kudos to you. That is exact. High five. High five. Good. Yes. Yes. That's exactly what we hope for everyone, is base hits, little improvements every week, every week, every week, every week. Because as your symptoms go down, the resilience of your tissue goes up. So when you're exposed to a stress that may have taken you down before, your resilience is building up a year later. You know, you keep building your resilience. Hey, I've been on my rebounder, you know, or, you know, whatever it should be. Hey, I'm chewing my parsley, and oh, hey, I do that celery. I put peanut butter on celery at night as a snack, and I just chew it, right? It doesn't matter how you get it down. But as you do all these little base hits, your resilience builds up, so you get younger and stronger. Yeah.
Great. We're well past time, but let's do this last one because it's just such a good one. How often do you need to rotate foods to prevent getting more food sensitivities?
Really good question. Depends on your microbiome. Depends on your microbiome. If you've got a limited microbiome, you're going to have limited tolerance, and you can overwhelm your system. So once again, we'll go back to rebuild the microbiome, rebuild the microbiome, rebuild the microbiome. And because it's called loss of oral tolerance. When you lose oral tolerance is when you start making antibodies to that food, elevated antibodies to that food. When you do a Zoomer test for a particular food, there's a reference range where everybody's got a little like that, no problem. There's no evidence that it's destructive. But when you've got elevated antibodies, you've lost oral tolerance. So your question is, if I eat apples every day, when do I get a loss of oral tolerance? Depends on your microbiome. Well, but if I eat parsley every day, will I develop loss of oral tolerance? Depends on your microbiome. I don't know any other way to answer that one. So the time frame, but the validity of the question is good, that it is common if people have a limited number of foods, if they're eating the same 8 foods every week, you know, or every day, that your body, because your body is the same as your ancestors, thousands of years ago, exactly the same kidneys and gallbladder and lungs and heart. We use our brains more, but exactly the same metabolism in our body. What food did our ancestors have to eat every day year round? None.
Not year round, no.
Right, none. They were foragers. You know, our earliest ancestors for humans they followed the herds. They were nomads. They ate nuts and seeds and fruits and vegetables and roots and occasionally some meat if they could get to an animal, right? but there was variety all the time. That is the healthiest diet. It's a bit it's very fanatical. But there is a philosophy of eating amongst the philosophies of Chinese medicine. Last week we had Dr. Josh Axe on, and his new book, Ancient Remedies, is all about traditional Chinese medicine principles and some of the things in there. And I remember hearing this before I came out in practice, maybe 1978, 1979, and that the Chinese say, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. And you eat what grows in your area, right? Well, there's not much that grows in the winter. I said, well, that's when you're looking for roots in the ground, right? More root vegetables, heartier foods, and some meats and things for most people. But the Chinese have this philosophy that there's this philosophy within Chinese traditional medicine that you eat with the seasons. You use the herbs in the seasons. What grows and can be harvested is what you focus on most of the time. We're not designed to eat the same thing every day. The only thing that should be in our diet every day is a ½ ounce of water, healthy water per pound body weight, every day. Everything else should be rotated. And the emphasis we've had for the last year now with this viral thing that's going on is that a key is 50 different fruits and vegetables a week, 50 different colors a week, every week. And right now, if you're at 12, great. Maybe next week you can be at 15. And then the week after that, you're at 18 or 20, you know, and you just learn more about how to mix these foods together. Oh my gosh, I put 4 different vegetables in my smoothie. That's 4 colors for today. It's not hard to get 50 in a week. You know, if you had 4 in your smoothie and you still have a couple, 2, 3 meals, right? So it's not difficult to do. Okay. So, my gosh, we've gone over a little bit. It just goes too fast. It's just
when we're having fun.
It does. I want to let everybody know that I'm doing a presentation tomorrow night on the autoimmune fix. I think there's a link posted there. No, that's not the link. This is the link to our book, The Autoimmune Fix. Michelle, do you know what we're doing with that here?
No, but we can post it. We can post that link, right? Is there an email going out with that information? I
think so. I'm sorry, I forgot. We talked about it yesterday, and I just don't pay attention to that. I should, but I don't. And
no, I'm looking at the team to do that.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh, right. I'm doing a webinar tomorrow with Know We Well, which is really an incredible website that has just come online in the last few months. And my friend Kimberly Whittle has been working so hard for 3 to 4 years now in doing this. We're very excited for what we're putting together here, everyone, in terms of access to health information and webinars and sources for high quality nutrition or interviews with great doctors and great practitioners and great people out there in the world that have a message that empowers people. Know We Well is really an impressive site. I suggest you go over and take a look at knowwewell.com, and you can see here what we're doing tomorrow. It's at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and link is on the DRTOMOBRYANGLUTENFREE Facebook page and at knowwewell.com events. Great. Thank you, Jane Lynn. Thank you so much. And I'm going to talk about autoimmunity tomorrow and where autoimmunity comes from and how do you identify it. So I'm going to give a focused overview on that topic. and some of the other principles in my book, The Autoimmune Fix.
That's going to be amazing.
Sorry?
That's going to be amazing. And the platform is amazing. I got to do a tour with Kimberly and I was blown away. So when they say like create something that fixes a pain point, she did that.
She did. She did. It's like no other site that I've seen. And I'm just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of work and a lot of friends behind the scenes that have been helping. And now there's a strong team in there that's been hired for this. And it's quite impressive. And we're looking forward to putting more information on Know We Well. So this is a first event tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern. The link is on the DRTOMOBRYANGLUTENFREE Facebook page and also knowwewell.com/events. With that, we'll say thank you all so very much for being here. Love being here with you. Michelle, this is so much fun. We'll be back together on the 1st of March, the first Tuesday of March, at our usual time together. And thanks for being accommodating so we could have Dr. Josh Axe last week. That was really great.
Yeah, enjoyed it. And I'll look forward to next month. And thanks for all the great questions. And sorry we didn't get to all of them, but post them, bring them next month.
Yes, amen to that. All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay.